tips for controllers and CFOs. A roundtable panel discussion brought to you by the Controllers Council. My name is Neil Brown, Executive Director of the Controllers Council, and before I introduce our expert panelists and our partner sponsor, let me share some brief housekeeping items. First, we'll have Q&A at the end of the presentation, so please use your control panel to ask our experts questions. Next, this webinar is CPE eligible with 4 polling questions, so please answer each poll for CPE or to benchmark your peers. Please allow a few days to receive your CPE certificates via email. Also regarding CPE, you'll receive a brief survey directly after the webcast today, so please complete. And finally, you will receive a link to this webcast via email in the next 24 hours, so no need for notes or screenshots. With that, I'm pleased to share a word about our partner and sponsor, AvidXchange, a leader in automating invoice, payment, and accounts payable processes for mid-market organizations. AvidXchange processes more than 242 billion transactions annually with 1,600 employees, 8,500 customers, and over 265 accounting system integrations. Learn more at avidexchange.com. Well, now it's my great pleasure and a nod to our panel title, Accounting Intelligence, to introduce two of our most intelligent and articulate panelists I've ever worked with, Brenna Albert and Joy Mbanugo. Brenna Albert is VP Corporate Controller at Medline Industries, the largest provider of medical surgical products and supply chain solutions serving all points of care. Prior to several leadership roles in finance, Brenna was a university accounting instructor and a high school math teacher. She earned an MBA from the University of Chicago Booth School of Business, a Master of Accountancy from East Tennessee State University, and a BA and BS in Mathematics from University of Southern California. She is a CPA, and we're very pleased that Brenna was the Controllers Council 2001 National Controller of the Year. Joy Mbanugo is CFO at Chai, CXAI, pronounced Chai, a Palo Alto-based enterprise workforce experience platform that is listed on NASDAQ. Her 20-year career includes CFO at Service Rocket, working in the controllership office at Google, and finance at BlackRock. She's also had a 12-year tenure at EY, which she told me the other day included being based in London. Joy is also a private investor in various funds, including women-led ventures, and she holds a Juris Doctorate from Cleveland State, a Master of Accountancy from Case Western Reserve, and a double bachelor's degree in accountancy and Black World Studies from Miami University of Ohio. Welcome, Brenna and Joy. And let's go ahead and go on to camera. And we will get to there's Joy and Brenna from their cool offices, maybe home offices, huh? Let's start with the usual question, just to give the audience a little background. Tell us about your company and more specifically your finance and accounting department. Brenna, would you like to start?
Sure, and thank you very much for the kind introduction, Neil. Always great to work with you and other great panelists like Joy. So I appreciate being here. So just a little bit about Medline. So, you know, as we mentioned in the introduction, we're the largest provider of medical surgical products in the world, as well as supply chain solutions serving all points of care in healthcare. I've been with the company for a little over 3 years now, and you know, our business transitioned from being a very successful family-owned business for many decades, very strong growth, to going on 4 years ago, through a record-breaking leverage buyout in healthcare, becoming sponsored by 3 private equity firms, 3 of the most prestigious firms. As you can imagine, with such a transition and also with the growth of the company, we've made significant investments in all areas of finance over the years. Where I would say we really, invested in the more recent years would be, in areas like FP&A to build out a more robust forecast process, as well as in my area, which is the global controllership. So the accounting, the financial reporting, and the internal controls. In addition to that, of course, we have full robust teams in the areas of finance, transactional shared services, tax and treasury, internal audit, as well as M&A and investor relations.
Awesome. Joy, please share a bit about your company.
I would take all of Brianna's team and everyone you have reporting to you. Internally, it's a team of 2, but I have a fully outsourced team. So mainly in the Philippines. And I think the last time I was here, I was talking about hiring a controller. So in the process of, thank goodness, hiring a controller. If people have questions as to why and how a publicly traded company does not have one, ask me that question another day. But my outsourced team, they kind of function, they do AP, AR, payroll, FP&A. I do have one person who kind of doubles as marketing and investor relations, which is interesting depending on who you ask. And I pretty much do everything within a reasonable standpoint. So right now, my big focus before quarter close is investor relations. So my job changes from day to day. It's funny, I saw a post on LinkedIn about like the what does finance really do, and I think like my real role is just being a fixer. So I call myself the chief fixer officer. That's how I feel today. If you ask me tomorrow, I may have a different title. There may be a different different acronym for that F. So happy to be here. Thanks, Neil, for having me again.
All right, chief fixer officer. Acronym works for CFO, just like chief financial officer. So thank you for that. All right, well, let's keep going here. And we are going to get to our first poll. So let me launch that. First of 4 polls. Is your accounting finance department using AI? Pretty easy. Select one of the following. So take a few seconds. All answers are anonymous and confidential, of course. And these questions do relate to our panel questions as well. So it's kind of nice to have a point of reference on the audience as well. So lots of fast voting here. So lots of smart people in the audience. So let's go ahead and share those results. A majority, 40%, have some AI being used, and that is followed by 28%, almost a third, not using AI at all, and almost equal amount, 26%, evaluating or planning AI options, and only 2% saying a significant amount of AI is being used, and 6% not sure. So we will circle back on that soon enough, but let's get to our second panel question. Please share where your F&A organizations are with AI adoption. What are some of the top processes? Are there use cases? Joy, why don't we start with you on this one?
Yeah, so one of the interesting things, I posted about this on LinkedIn the other day. So one of the things I'm using AI for, 3 things. One, I was in the process of trying to build an AI agent, and I had this great idea. I work for an AI company, and so I was harassing the engineers and telling them I need all these tools and, low code, no code tools. And the head of engineering was just like giving me a hard time, like, Joy, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm building an AI agent. And he's like, why? I'm pretty certain there's something you can, like out of the box you can use. So I was on a quest, I would call it like a 90-day sprint to build an AI agent. And so what I found in ChatGPT specifically, there are agents already built, Super CFO and certain technical accounting. Now you'll have to check the accuracy yourselves, but there are agents already there. So one use case I used the other day was, budget season is coming up in planning. And so we do both top down and bottom up planning. And so I wanted to just come up with a very high level zero-based budget based on what we've done the last few years. And so I used the Super CFO GPT, gave it a few prompts. Let me take a step back. This is behind the company's firewall. I just want to be clear. Let me be clear there. But gave it a couple of prompts, put in data from 2023 to date, and then just let it run. And it gave me like a baseline budget, and I asked for high, medium, low. And I kind of scanned it, but I sent it to my team and said, hey, here's a head start for you. I did this in ChatGPT, but use this to like start the the top down budget. So that's one. The second one I used it for, this was just interesting from an SEC reporting standpoint. I have trained ChatGPT just on who I am, and we'll talk about that later. But anyway, I said, based on the last 4 or 5 filings, can you give me a skeleton 10Q? Because my third quarter Q is coming up. I have a lot of external advisors who I'm paying, and I'm a CFO, I want to reduce fees. So it gave me a shell Q, and so I'll be using that for a draft version of the Q, and then just basic emails. But I have I literally use AI every day, but those are the top 2 that just come to mind, and one that I just used the other day. There is something interesting in Claude. If you follow a gentleman named Wouter Bourne, he has like all of these cool things you can do in AI. Claude, it's not behind our firewall yet, so I can't do it, but there's some very cool planning that you can do in Claude, some very cool modeling you can do in Claude, and dashboards that Claude can create for you like very, very quickly, which I think is amazing. So if you haven't had a chance to play with Claude, I would try that out.
That's neat. I'm taking copious notes here. Brenna, how about yourself?
Yeah, so I think similar to the poll results, we are using AI in some ways. We're certainly continuing to explore and thinking about some investments as well. So, and how I use AI in my everyday work, I do think it's at this point primarily with respect to those productivity gains, right? So when think about my my work, presentations, right, executive summaries, those kind of board level materials, et cetera, right? So just those productivity day-to-day gains, getting caught up on email chain that's 10 miles long, right? All of those things that I think are becoming, a little more core to how we think about work and how we can just do those basic things more efficiently. When I take a step back and think about finance organizations, as a whole, both my current company and previous companies, we definitely have some targeted areas where we've been using, let's say bots or different aspects of AI for quite a while. At a previous firm, for example, we were small, scrappy, hyper growth, right? So we put in place an AP tool. I won't mention the specific tool, but it had some basic AI capabilities at the time. This is several years ago. And it was able to suggest, right, the coding for an invoice, right, who the approver should be, just based on learning, right? So it was a learning model, wasn't always perfect, right? So to Joy's point, you definitely had to fact check that for sure. And then certainly, right, we use quite a bit of bots to perform tasks in the financial services area as well. And when we think about internal controls, it's a whole other aspect of this that, I'm sure we'll pick up later, that always needs to be considered. Some areas that we're thinking about, just broadly speaking, and I've been, doing some networking with peers, right? How are we all thinking about this kind of as a controller, group or cohort? And some of the things like Joy, you mentioned about 10Q, 10K filing, right? We have external reporting requirements today, although we're still, private equity held. We have our lender reporting, essentially SEC reporting light, we would call it, very similar. So, if we use a world-class tool for that, well, we're challenging our vendor partners, hey, come to us, right? Like, are we leaving things on the table and capabilities and the tools that we have today, right? And Joy, like, kind of like you were saying, the advice you got from your technical team, right? Hey, why are you trying to build something from scratch? Like, let's see what we already have. Right, so that's what I'm encouraging my leadership team to do is like, we don't want to leave these capabilities on the table. We won't adopt everything necessarily, right? But we should all be thinking about that. We need to be proactive, right? Not just wait for others to come to us. We need to start chasing those things. So we think about, commentary, in an MD&A, a first pass. We think about our fluctuation analysis, right? Some of those close-related items, more automation of balance sheet reconciliations. That's such a basic one. And then we talk later about the evolution of our roles, right? Like those are the kinds of things we should be automating to the extent possible with the right human checks and intervention. And then when I think more about further investment in finance shared services, certainly agentic AI is on our minds as well. Right? At my company, we're very customer focused, right? Well, where do we, how do we serve our customers best by empowering our employees to do their work in a better way? And what are those strategic investments that we can make, right, or improvements we can make in our agentic AI capabilities that do empower our team members, right, to serve the customers both external and internal. So those are some of the areas that we have in place today and other things that we're exploring.
And surely you're using many different software solutions, whether ERP or point solution, and many of those have embedded AI in them, and that continues to be a growth